Hey Moonbeams, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking all about Canva Brand Kit. So in this video I plan to go through what a brand kit is, why you need it, and how to set it up. So starting off, what actually is a brand kit? Well, a brand kit is basically your brand's magic wardrobe inside Canva. It keeps all your logos, colors, fonts all in one handy spot. So you're not faffing around trying to remember hex codes or which font you used last time. It basically means that every design that you whip up looks polished and consistent. And if you've got a team, well then at least everyone is pulling from the same kit. So there's no rogue color sneaking in. It's really like having your brand on tap, ready to go in one click. In fact, it's very much the first thing that I recommend all my clients and all my students do, because it's a little bit like housekeeping. Once you set this brand kit up, it is very much going to make everything so much easier. So when you are in design mode, everything will be there on the side panel. You can bring in your colors and your fonts and things like that, which I will show in the demonstration part of this video. But why do you really need a brand kit in Canva? Well, honestly, I think everyone needs to use the brand kit. It is a total game changer. For me as a brand designer, the one thing that I like to drum home all the time is brand consistency. That really is the number one thing that gets your brand recognized. You know, I've only got to mention a few global brands like Cadbury, Starbucks, Apple, and I bet straight away you could conjure up the colors and you could see in your mind's eye what the fonts were and how it made you feel. Well, that's very much why it's all important to be consistent with your branding, and having a brand kit set up allows you to stay consistent. As I say, you're not using 50 shades of orange hex codes. You know your hex code, it's in Canva, which makes it easy for you to use and not have to remember. So as I say, every single post is saved, everything's going to look polished. Any presentation you create, there's none of this faffing around. Secondly, it's going to speed up design considerably. So going back to having to find things and go through different folders, at least with the brand kit, it's there via a click of a button. One click and your logos are in, one click your colors are in, and so on. So it's going to save you a lot of time and no more hunting for hex codes. And finally, it just makes it so much easier to scale your brand. So as you build your brand, you're going to want to start building other things like business cards, social media graphics, maybe even a website. And so by having that foundation in place in your brand kit is going to make it so much easier. So what I plan to do next is I'm going to demonstrate how to find your brand kit and also how to set it up. And I'm going to use a demonstration of a previous brand client of mine, so you get to see a sneak peek of how branding works and how that applies into your Canva. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so when you log into your Canva account, this is what the current dashboard will look like. So of course all your recent designs will be at the top. You've got all your quick links here to create certain graphics like LinkedIn posts and presentations, and then of course we've got the main nav, which sits on the left hand side in a vertical layout. Now I will save the other tabs for another video, but for today we are looking at your brand kit. So to locate that is halfway down, and you will see a little icon that says brand, and of course it is a Canva Pro feature. To know that, it's got a little crown icon to the side of it, which basically means that you will need a Canva Pro account to access the brand kits. I believe there is a free version, but it's very limited. I think you only get access to one, and maybe you might be able to upload one logo and a couple of hex codes. But I do recommend, if you are serious about building a business, you will need to up level yourself to Canva Pro, because it unlocks so many more features that you just will not be aware of. I mean, just to put it into context, me as a brand designer, I used to have lots and lots of different subscriptions that I was paying monthly, whereas with Canva it's like £100 for the year, about £12.50 a month, and you get all of that under one roof. But anyway, this is where the brand kits hang out. You'll see it on like another side now to the left, so it'll be under brand kits. Underneath brand kits you'll see templates. That's where you can set up actual templates that are branded, that you can unlock and use between your teams. And of course, brand controls is very similar in the sense if you're working with a team, you can give them access to certain colors, certain fonts. But for today, we are looking into brand kits. So as you can see on my screen, I work with lots of different clients, and so to make sure that I keep their branding consistent, I like to use the brand kits within Canva. So to create a new one, you simply go to the right hand side and find the button Add New. It's got a big plus sign. Click it once and then it will prompt you to name it. So today I'm actually going to walk you through the process of how I update a client's brand from after we've done the branding process into Canva. So I'm just going to quickly show you what her branding looks like. So I recently worked with a lovely lady called Gemma, great name by the way, on her branding. So this is typically how I like to finalize a brand. This is what we call a brand board. So ideally, if you work with a graphic designer, they will deliver you something like this, and then from here we take the hex codes, the fonts and the logos all into Canva so that you can stay consistent in building your brand. So the key things that I want to take from here is the hex codes. We're going to drop in all her logos because, well, in this day and age, we need a lot more than just one logo. Your brand has to work a lot harder. So we have a logo family of 5, and we want to get in all her fonts and other brand elements as well. So her business is called Glow Within. So I recommend naming your brand kit that. So Glow Within. And then you simply want to press create, which is the purple button, and then you'll be taken to a web page like this. So that's where we named it. If you ever wish to change the name, you can just simply press the pencil icon and then you can type in and change it. This is where we are going to drop our logos, so I'm just going to do that now. So just going to go through all the different files. Now what I will mention about the logo file types is you can upload JPEGs, PNGs and SVGs. I personally only stick to 2 file types, and that is SVGs and PNGs. Now I personally would just stick with the SVGs because they are basically the elite file type when it comes to logos, because with SVGs it stands for Scalable Graphic Vector. So that means if we were to enlarge the logo, it would basically retain its quality, unlike a raster file, which is a JPEG and a PNG. So if you were to scale it up, you are going to see a considerable pixelation, which isn't pretty. SVGs are really great if your logos are 5 colors or less, because that is what Canva picks up. So when you are using those SVG logos, that means you can change the colors within Canva. So that means you don't have to keep uploading lots of different variations of logo types. Now there will be a slight stipulation if you have a logo that is got a texture in it. So say it's got gold foil, or you're using a gradient within it, then chances are you won't be able to change the colors within Canva, so PNG would be your next best friend. I would not bother with JPEGs because you've got that awful white bounding box, and so when you are creating graphics, it's just going to bring up that ugly box. So I would not recommend using JPEGs. Okay, so I've got all the logos in. So we've got everything from the primary logo to the secondary logo, submarks, watermarks, and brand marks. So they are all in. I would also recommend naming your file types because that way it's nice and easy to find it. If you were to use it in other folders, that is. But because it's in a brand kit, you don't need to worry too much about that. But it's just something to bear in mind for when you're creating folders, it's easier to search for. So definitely recommend getting into the habit of naming files. Okay, so moving down to colors. Now, you might have already noticed that it started to kind of suggest colors here. It's basically picking it out from the logos that we've uploaded. So I'm just going to remove that and do it properly from scratch so you can see. And again, you can name your color palette. So I can just call it Glow Within color palette, and again, you don't have to name it, but I'm just showing you that it can be done. And then of course we need to add that in. So ideally, as I say, if you have had branding done and you've been given a brand board like this, then you can go into your brand board and simply copy and paste those hex codes straight into your Canva account. You can also give it a name. So when I work with branding clients, I do like to give that a name. So I'm just gonna pop that in. So I've called it Sandy Stillness, and then you can simply just press enter, and that is now saved under here. So again, you can edit it, so just press the pencil again and you can change the name, or by clicking on the color you can change the hex code, and of course you can hover over it to completely delete it as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and add the rest of those hex codes in. Okay, so I've just added the colors. I just also want to mention at this point, you can actually add in the CMYK values if you have it, but to be honest, most of the time you just need a hex code, because most modern day printers can easily convert from a hex code into your CMYK printing. Essentially CMYK is for print and hex code is for web, so just bear in mind that you may see a slight color shift when you get things printed, because there isn't the vibrancy of what you would see on screen, because there is a light behind your screen, so colors appear brighter. So you've got the option to add that in there. And of course, I also want to mention that you can actually create gradients. My client doesn't have any gradients within her branding, but I'm just going to quickly demonstrate how you would set that up. So just by pressing the plus, we switch from solid to over to a gradient, and then you need a minimum of 2 colors. So if I wanted to add in, brand color, I could just click on the colors and I can paste in all the different colors I want. I can also toggle with the opacity. So the opacity means it takes it from a solid color to a very transparent color. So if you want a gradient that starts off really dark and then fades off to basically nothing, then you can toggle with this here as well. Also, if you don't have a brand color palette, but you have some colors that you have been working on, then of course you can use Canva's eyedropper tool to grab that color hex code. So I can show that a little bit later on how to do that. So very happy with the color palette. So I'm just going to cross off the gradient, and that is our brand color palette set up. The next thing you want to do is set up your fonts. Now in Canva, it gives you lots and lots of different variations of fonts, but to be honest, when it comes to branding, you really don't want to use more than 3 to 4 fonts at the very most. Typically when a person works with me, I like to work with 4 fonts. So for example here, the main header font is kind of like your big kind of hero font that you might use at the top of a blog, that font is typically the same fonts that you use within your logo. When it comes to your subheader and body copy, that is what you're going to be using for your social media graphics and also your copy for your website, and those typically should be related. It doesn't have to be, of course, but I just think from my personal experience, having a subheader match the same font family as your body copy makes it more seamless and cohesive. Of course, a subheader will be a higher font weight. So in this case, we've used Poppins. And again, this isn't always needed, but because I work with female solopreneurs, often they're building a personal brand, so I like to bring in kind of a script font to kind of mimic their handwriting to make it feel a bit more personalized. So let's go back into the fonts. So starting off with the first one, let me just remind myself what that one was. Wild Mango. So just bearing in mind, this brand client worked to me, so there are a couple of premium fonts, but most of the time you can obviously select a font already in Canva's library, so you can go ahead and do so. But if you have gone ahead and had custom branding and you've bought a font license for yourself, then do go ahead and add that in. Let me just see if I can find it. Where are you? Obviously didn't upload it, so that's okay. I can show you how to do that. So if you are on Mac, you want to go to your font book, which is a little kind of grey icon with the 4 A's, and I'm just going to search for Wild Mango. There we go. And then I'm just going to export that. So I need to go to File, Export, and you can just pop it anywhere, but for now I'm just popping it on my desktop and then press open. So now if I go up to add new, I can upload my custom font. So press upload, and then I can simply go back and find that, and here it is. This is the font. So drop it in, it'll ask you to confirm it and just say yes, I have the right. So make sure that you have your font licenses, and it will upload your premium font. So now we know it's in there. So if we just give it a refresh, sometimes it makes a big difference. If you do a refresh, kind of tells Canva like things have been added. So we want to add that to our heading. So go to choose font. Here it is under uploaded fonts. If not, I can search for it up here. So we want to select Wild Mango. I also want to maybe increase the font size maybe a little bit. Let's do 42, and then I can tick it, and that means it's saved. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same for the other one. So subheading, I know Poppins is already in Canva as a free font, so I can set that here, and I set it as bold because I want it to have a higher font weight. I might just up it a little bit on the font size, and then I can tick it. Of course, if you want to edit it, you just click on it again, and then you can reset the heading type, size, and if it's bold or italic. And then for body copy, so that'd be for everything. So for your main paragraphs, and that is also Poppins as a regular. And again, I might just up that to 18, and I don't want it bold or italic, so I'm just gonna tick it there. So you can carry on adding any other fonts that you have, but they're the main ones that I would set up. Okay, so then moving down to brand voice. Now, I don't really tend to use this, and I don't think many of my clients do either, but in Canva there are options to write. And so if you want to create writing in Canva, you can set your brand voice. So just by pressing the plus, it will ask you to basically describe how your brand voice sounds. So I can say, you know, I am a yoga and sound bath instructor. I like to come across friendly, upbeat, kind, you know, all those sort of keywords, and basically it tells the AI in Canva how to make you sound like you. So I'm not going to go through into that, but just to kind of mention it's there should you wish to use it. Now this is photos. Now I really highly recommend investing in brand photography. It really does elevate your entire brand, especially if you're building a personal brand, which means people like to buy from people, and of course that means seeing your face. Now I will say everyone says this to me, and I said it to myself at the start of my business. Oh no, no one wants to see me, and I need to lose a stone, or I need to lose some weight, and I need to do this, blah, 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 cue all the excuses, and I kept putting off the photos. And the moment that I did invest, one, it gave me so much more confidence, but also it just really elevated my website and also my social media graphics. So again, you can go into your folders and find where you are saving your brand photography. So I'm just going to upload a few of my clients just to kind of give you an idea how that works. So I'll just save mine under photos, and I will just upload a few. So again, you can just drag it and drop it, and obviously the higher the size of photos, the longer it would take. That's why I'm only doing 5, because my client has probably over 100 or maybe even 200, and yeah, it can take a while. So just make sure that you don't close the screen if your photos are still populating. So as I said, I did a few to kind of show you. Graphics, so this is basically where everything else hangs out in terms of like your brand elements. So whether your brand designer has given you patterns, backgrounds, illustrations, you know, anything like that. So again, I'm just going to go into my folder and go down to our supporting elements. So I think here I'm just going to go into the backgrounds and get those uploaded. So these were a couple of branded backgrounds that we created. Kind of like light fractures and reflections, and I've also done patterns. So again, these patterns were done in SVG, which means we can change the colors in Canva, and I've done them in different orientations. We've got landscape, portrait, and square, because of course we're going to be building lots of different marketing things, and we need everything to be working in synergy. And then of course icons, it's very similar to graphics, but if you've got those smaller little illustrations, then you can pop them in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. So I remember creating some little celestial illustrations. So I'm just going to make sure I'm uploading all the SVGs again. And again, it applies if your illustrations have got textures in, then you won't be able to change the colors in Canva. So if it's 5 colors or less, you'll be able to do that as long as it's SVG. Charts, again, it's not something that I bother with either. It's only if you're into creating like your bar charts and graphs and things like that. So maybe if you're an accountant, it might apply. And again, you can just set your color palette there as well, and the style of charts that you wish to design. But that is for the main haul of it. It really is the logos, the colors, the fonts, and any supporting graphics are in there. So that means it's all nicely saved. And so if we go back to brand kits, you will see it at the bottom there, glow within. Right, so what I'm going to do now is go back into design mode and just show you how, now we've set that up, how easy it is to access. So I'm just going to get a presentation artboard up so it's nice and big so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit more. So starting off with the first thing, when you click the actual background, it'll bring up a floating nav at the top, and it's got a color wheel, which means you can set the background color. Now over on the left, it's brought out a pop-out side menu that has default colors and default gradients. But you also notice that it's bringing in my brand color, but I want to show you the one that we've just created. So if it's not showing the right brand kit, you can simply click on here and then you can swap between them. So if we scroll down, we can now find the one we just set up, which is Glow Within. And now you can see it's bringing in all the color palettes, so I can click between all the different colors that I want really easily, and I can even edit it in real time. If I ever wanted to add another color, I can just simply press edit, and then I can go in and create another color for this palette, and then I can press save, but I don't, so I'm just going to press cancel, and let's go back one. Okay, so it's already brought it up, but if you ever want to find your brand kit, it's on the very left hand side on the vertical nav, and it is the 4th one down, which says brand. So I'm just going to cross that little notification off. So as you can see, it's bringing in the logos, the colors, the fonts, our photos, graphics, icons, etc. So I can literally press see all for logos, and I can bring in the logo that I wish to use for a design. Now as it is an SVG, that means that it'll be better quality, but also that means we can change the colors within here. So just gonna give another little refresh, because sometimes just Canva needs it every so often. And I'm going to change the colors. So I can switch between changing the blue to the purples. I can change the green to the blue, and then maybe we could change this pale pink to the green, and so on. So that's just another really handy thing to know, especially if you need to do like a white version. You know, you can just literally go like this instead of having to upload another logo that is a white version. Maybe we won't do that one, but you can see here. So let me just change the background so you can see it a bit better. So that's just, as I say, a really quick example of how to change your logo colors. And then going back into the brand, you know, we can go down to, you know, bring in a photo really easily. We've got our fonts, so I can bring in, you know, the heading font. And then I've got my subheading font and body. And again, if you think, oh, it's just not quite the right size, you can either manually obviously change it here, but then of course you can edit the fonts as well. And then of course we've got the icons, so very similar to the logos. For example, the blue's not showing up, so I can literally click on the blue and I can change it to any color I like. And those colors always appear at the top as well, just to note. So yeah, that is basically how to bring in all your branded elements. And so really it's just knowing that once that's all done, everything just stays nice and consistent. Oh, there is one more thing that I would like to show. If we go back to the brand kit, say for example you wish to update a logo, and you know that you've been using these logos throughout your marketing assets, you can actually hover over the logo. It's got the 3 dots, and you can drop down to replace across all designs. So that basically means that if you update this logo, and bearing in mind that you've used it from the source of your brand kit, that means it'll update everything you've done using that logo. So whether it's a lead magnet, a business card, etc. So I just wanted to point that out. Oh, and of course I did also want to mention that if you don't have a hex code but you've been using a graphic that you like the color of, I just want to quickly show you how to access that. So if I just bring up I don't know, a random photo, let's just type in, I don't know, forest. Let's get a photo up, and say for example you've been using this in your marketing and you really want to extract, you know, that green. What you can do is go back into graphics and just select any shape. A square will do. Let's just bring it over here so you can see it. Let me delete some of this actually off. So okay, so when you're selecting the shape, obviously it's got a default color. If we go back up to the nav that says color, and we go over to this plus, we can select this little eyedropper tool. So once it's selected, it will bring up this little magnifying glass, which means it can pinpoint different pixels. So we can go in and go, yeah, we like that light green. Got it. So then now we've got that, we can then put our cursor into this box and Command C it, which means copy. And if you're on Windows, I believe it's Control C. And then you literally Command C it, and then we can go back into here, press the plus, and then Command V it, which is paste, or Control V, which is for Windows, and give it a name. So lime green, enter, and that color is now saved into the brand kit. So that means if I delete that, and again just give it a little refresh, I can then now select the back of it, and there it is. There's that new lime green color that we selected from photo. So there you have it, Moonbeams. That is how you build and create your brand kit in Canva that is recognizable, so that every graphic that you make is building up your brand message with ease and consistency. So next time that you're working in Canva and that you find a template from the library that you like, well, now you know that you can swap out the colors and the fonts and the logos really easily, so that makes you seem like the go-to person in your industry rather than this chaos, messy brand. So hope this helps, and if you did like this video, please drop a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.